Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today and welcome. Today, the California Law Pathways Program is hosting a application workshop with the University of California. So for the folks who are going to be applying to the UC, we're going to walk you through key deadlines, application tips, and resources to strengthen your transfer application and pre-law journey. My name is Gladys Puente Valentine. I work here at the California Law Pathways Program. I'm going to be sharing some more about our program and how to join. So, please don't hesitate to reach out if you'd like to get, more information after this presentation. We will be sharing the recording and the slides and resources, but just know that we're here. Please feel free to reach out anytime you have any questions about the application process or any of the partners that we collaborate with. And then just for some housekeeping rules, we invite you to keep your camera on if possible. No pressure, you don't have to, but we do invite you to do that. And also just ask as many questions as possible. Definitely, take full advantage of our presentation guest speaker. She's going to be walking you through the application. She's a wealth of knowledge. So please feel free to ask your questions. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. That will be the last 10 minutes. So if you're able to hold the question, try to hold it until then. But if it's, particular to that point in the application, then go ahead and just ask your question in the chat box, or you can also raise your hand, raise your virtual hand. And next slide, please. Great. So yeah, just wanted to talk a little bit about Cal Law Pathways program. So we're a statewide program that supports community college students, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds, on their journey to law school. We offer this program at 36 community colleges. So if you check out our partner map, you can, do a filter there and see if there's a community college near you to join the program. And to join the program, you'll just want to sign up by completing the student survey. That is due October 31st. So make sure, if you haven't completed it already, to fill out that survey. That's the way that you officially join the statewide program and begin receiving communications and newsletters from us. So we'll make sure that we keep you up to date with all the different events, resources, scholarships, all that information. Once you fill out that form, we'll do that. We also get you connected to your local chapter. And students that join this program have several membership benefits. So there's academic, career, and transfer support. If you could just, there we go. So there's academic, career, and transfer support. So after signing up, you'll be connected to the local pathway. There's a 7-course pre-law course pattern that you're able to take, and you can earn a certificate of completion. Once you get that certificate of completion, that grants you access to special recognition in your undergraduate and law school applications, which is recognized by 16 undergraduate partners and 16 law schools. And this also includes an application fee waiver. So definitely, make sure to check that out. Applying to law school can get pricey. So this is a really good benefit for you all. And then, separate from that, there's just, mentorship, financial resources, priority access to several pre-law events on your campus, and also through our statewide program. Next slide, please. And you can find like all these resources on our page. We have a resource page that'll walk you through how to join. Other important resources you should be looking at, like Access Lex, LSAC, law school fee waivers, how to do it. So all of that is on our website. Next slide, please. And we have several events. This fall semester, we have several application workshops. So the one that is coming up is to apply to private universities. And so our partner, is going to walk students through that application. That's going to be next Wednesday, October 15th at 4 o'clock. And then the following Wednesday, October 22nd, we have a law school admissions panel. That's also going to be a really good event. So if you are applying to law school, we're going to have law school partners walk you through also like tips on how to apply, timeline, um, any questions that you may have about how to strengthen your personal statement and application. That would be the place to come, and we'll have our law school deans there available to answer questions. And then in the spring, we'll have several career in law webinars. So we're going to be inviting attorneys from different practice areas to come and share like what they do in their practice area, their journey to law. If you're interested in legal careers that don't require a JD, so like, a paralegal certificate or jobs at the court, we're also going to have career panels that revolve around that kind of educational journey. So just, yeah, go to our website and you can already start registering for all those events. Great. So it's my pleasure to introduce Tiffany Reardon. She is the director of Berkeley's Community College Transfer Center Services. It's a center for educational partnerships. So she supports students that are transfer students, either transferring to UC Berkeley or other campuses, or a transfer student at UC Berkeley. So she is going to be walking everyone through the application today, and just want to thank her for participating and being a wealth of knowledge for our students. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to Tiffany.
All right. Thank you so very much. I'm excited to be here. This is a really, really great program. A very, very wonderful program. So just really excited that you're either applying, now this cycle, or maybe you're applying next cycle. Regardless, we have a lot to talk about just in terms of the application, just kind of demystifying the application. And I'm going to share some resources as well. And we're going to do an application walkthrough. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I will, let's see. Are you all able to see my screen? Okay, great. All right. So welcome. This is our UC application overview. All of the UCs use the same application. So on one hand, it is easier because we do have a common application. On the other hand, there's a lot of parts to it. So our goal today is just to kind of walk through them. And then again, we will have time for Q&A. So before we get to that, just want to share a little bit about our program. So Cal Law Pathways program, you will learn this is a program that you can put on your UC application. This is an academic preparation program. In addition, if you're interested and you want to join our program, it's pretty simple. All you do is fill out the intake form, and you can, get access to different things, such as our Transfer to Success webinars. We do webinars like these all the time. And so that's something you can also include on your application. But more importantly is the insight and information that you get about transfer, because we're here to support students, not just to Berkeley, but to all the UCs. Although we do like when you come to Berkeley, but any UC will do. And speaking of which, if you haven't been to the campus and you are, kind of simultaneously exploring and applying, we will be having a college information day on Saturday the 25th. I encourage you, if you're in the area or maybe you want to make a trip to NorCal, we will have this. You're welcome. Your siblings are welcome, your family's welcome. It's really just an opportunity for you to come and learn about the campus. Maybe even stop by the law school as well, because we have a great law school. So just wanted to put in a plug for that. All right, the application timeline. So October 1st is when the UC filing period happens. So the application is opened on the 1st, but you can't apply until now. right? So from now to December 1st is when you actually apply. So that's where we are right now. So those of you that are applying, hopefully you have the deadline on your calendar. But I mentioned these other deadlines because these are very important. So after you apply in January, your fall grades will come in. And if you're on the quarter system, your winter grades may come in. So you want to make sure that you do your transfer academic update. And then around April is when the decisions start trickling in, right? So that's the time where you really, really want to keep checking your email. And then June 1st is kind of our universal deadline to accept your offer of admission. It's always an exciting time, but just want to make sure that you have those dates in mind because it's a lot that happens in a short window of time. So we're going to talk about the application introduction. We're going to do a walkthrough of the various application sections. And then we're going to talk about extracurricular activities. And then we're going to kind of gloss over PIQs. I could do a whole thing on PIQs, but just want to, kind of give you some resources related to that. And then if you have any questions, of course, feel free to ask. But this is just kind of how this is structured, just to answer, some questions that you might have. So the application introduction. So when you apply, you want to set aside some time, right? You're going to have to set aside some time to apply. You're going to have to gather some things. So schedule that. It is possible not to do it all in one setting. In fact, I probably would recommend that you don't do it all in one setting. You can obviously save your application just to get everything, because you want to have a complete application. You want to have a complete application because we do a comprehensive review, right? We do a comprehensive review of your application. So you want to make sure that you have everything, because you want to give them everything that they need in order for them to make a decision. So what you'll need your unofficial transcripts. If you have AP scores, now I realize you're applying as a transfer student, but some of you might have AP scores that you want to use. You will need family income information or your individual income information. List of honors and awards, including any scholarships you've gotten, extracurricular activities with descriptions, non-classroom activities that you've participated in, volunteer, job, things that you've done. If you've been in the military, those dates. I'd recommend, if you have a resume, it doesn't have to be a perfect resume, but if you have a resume, go ahead and bring out your resume. And then maybe include things that perhaps you hadn't thought of. When we go over the extracurricular section, that'll kind of provide some clarity, but it is very, very important that you include everything, right? And so sometimes students think, oh, it doesn't have to do with school, it doesn't have to do with my major. But what you'll see when we talk about the extracurriculars, that a lot of different things on the application are relevant, right? And it gives context. It gives context for you as a student and kind of your experiences that you bring. And we love transfer students, so because you have such unique experiences. So the cost. So the application cost is $80 per campus. However, you can request fee waivers. So fee waivers are an option. So you can do 4 free, free applications for those, who qualify. So I encourage you to do those fee waivers for the UC campuses. So you'll need to create an account if you don't already have one. So go ahead and create your UC application account. The email that you use, I would maybe not use your school email. I would maybe use a non-school email account. If you have Gmail, that works, Yahoo, some email that you will have access to, right? An email. I wouldn't use your work email because you never know, right? Maybe that work email, if you stop working there, you might not have access to it, right? So a non-school email account, and one that you check often, because again, there might be things that you receive. Sometimes they're very time sensitive, so you want to make sure that you have that. And then, of course, you have to have a password, right? So a secure password that you remember. And sometimes what students do, and I think this is a good idea, they'll have a specific account for college applications and all things related to, college, financial aid, and things like that. So if you want to do that, that would be a really good idea. So you will apply for fall, right? So right now we are in right now we're in fall. You'll apply for next fall. Now, there are 9 UC campuses that you can apply to transfer at. And some of them are on the quarter system. Most of them, in fact, are on the quarter system. 2 are semester. So us and UC Berkeley and UC Merced, we're both on the semester system. Now, your application level will be transfer if you're transferring from a community college. So that's what you'll do. And when you apply, typically you will apply as a junior level transfer, right? So sometimes, students might say, oh, I have a lot of units. Like, they can figure all that out, right? Just apply as a junior level transfer. Don't worry about all the, nuances of that. Just, that you, because you do need to have at least 60 semester or 90 quarter units, right? And if you put sophomore or senior, there is a chance that they may not look at your application, or, there might be, delays. So really just put junior level transfer, just to ensure that your application will be reviewed. Now, starting the application, you'll see, you'll need to list your full legal name, the name that you use, that it's on official documents, right? Now, some of our students have live names, but you want to make sure that you use your legal name, right? That's the name that you're going to have to use on that. And then if you have a live name, that's completely fine as well. But you won't use that live name until you enroll on the campus. So we want your name that is your legal name, just to identify you. And you'd be very surprised at, when we work with students and, they change the name that they use. So you want to be consistent in the name, right? So you don't want to have any issues where, the information doesn't get to you or it's overlooked, right? So your full legal name that is on, your application, because that's a name for your official documents that you'll need to use. So about you. So this section, you're going to have to enter your personal information, your contact information, citizenship and residency, demographic information, your background, household, your parents' information, your statement of legal residence. So you're going to have to enter all of these things in this. And I have some slides because, there are unique situations. In addition, let's see. So if you choose your country of citizenship, so if you are a U.S. citizen, that you would put that. Now, let's say, for example, you're an undocumented student, right? If you are an undocumented student, you can put no selection, right? So if you put your country of citizenship, if you are an undocumented student, we have been advised to advise students to put no selection. And then that, now, however, for California residency purposes, if you will have graduated from a California high school, chances are yes. So that's what you would put in that section. And then your background. Questions about, if you have been in foster care or have been awarded the court. We have programs for students that are former foster youth. So if that's the case, you should indicate that. If you were in the military, or you're a dependent of the military, you should put that as well. So all of these things you should include in this. If you have children, you should include that. Or if you are married or in a domestic partnership, you should put that as well, because that will, provide information that you'll need to include later. So you want to make sure that it's all complete. And then your parents' situation. So let's say, for example, that you are over the age of 24. If you are over the age of 24, then you are not required to choose to, put your parents' information because you are a dependent student. But we encourage, all students to do that because this is how we determine whether or not you're a first generation college student, right? So perhaps if you're, maybe only one of your parents is, in the picture, that's completely fine. You can, put the parent that you perhaps live with, or if it's a legal guardian. But they'll ask if they've, how long they've been at the job, what are they doing, and you can put that in that section. Statement of legal residence. So this is important because you want to pay California tuition. You don't want to pay out-of-state tuition. Out-of-state tuition is very costly. So for U.S. citizens, U.S. Residents, if you are a California citizen, put that. In addition, undocumented applicants, yes, you want to be a California citizen because you don't want to pay for the not out-of-state residency. If you are an international student, you obviously would need to include that on there. But if you are undocumented or a California resident, U.S. citizen, permanent resident, you would put that you are a California residency. In addition, we give preference to California community college students, right? So we are a public institution, so we do have an obligation to, accept students from the state. So these are questions that you'll ask is, if you've attended, high school outside of California, they just want to determine residency. So this is important that you have this as well. Now, if your parents' citizenship is different than yours, right? So let's say, for example, if your parents, U.S. citizenship, what you can put is you can just put unknown. Just put unknown. That's completely fine. Unless they are citizens, and if they are citizens, then you can indicate what that is. If it's unknown, if you don't know, you can put that as well. But you want to be truthful in that aspect, and include that as well. Now about you. Now let's say, for example, that you are a undocumented student. If there is a special circumstance for non-resident supplemental tuition, there is a section. So if you are a student that this does count for, then you could, you've lived in California, you can put that as well. So this is all related to, and this is confidential. So this is, not something that is shared. This is for admissions purposes. That's, it's used to, it's not used to determine whether or not we're going to admit you. It's just used to determine your tuition, right? So when you are admitted to whatever you see that they know, and again, preferences for California community college students. So campus and majors. So this is important. Again, you want to put junior level transfer, and you've graduated from high school and enrolled in regular session. Or sometimes we have students that have not graduated from high school. Maybe they got their GED, or maybe they took, an exit exam. There's different, factors. But the fact that you are a transfer student. Now, this is also important. If you already have a BA or a BS, then this would not be the application for you, because we don't accept folks that already have a BA or a BS. So if that's the case, then you probably would want to apply to a grad degree or a postdoc or something like, or a post-bac. But this is for students that do not already have their degree. So campuses and majors. So you want to think about the campuses that you're applying to, right? So you can get 4 fee waivers automatically. But thinking about those schools, I highly encourage you to look at the UC website, compare the different campuses. I mean, we all offer something different, right? As much as possible, try and go to the different campuses, see what that looks like for you, see if they have your major and the resources. But you will need to use, 4 for the fee waiver. You can apply to as many as you want to, but I would say make an informed decision about, what schools you want to apply to. And then this is specific to UCSD. So UCSD is a little bit different in how they are structured. So they have what's known as colleges, right? So as a UCSD student, you will be assigned one of 8 colleges if you're accepted. It's important that it's not based on your major. It's basically based on what you're interested in. So this is a situation where you're going to have to look at all the different colleges and kind of see the breakdown of the different colleges. If possible, go to their webinars, contact I know the folks at UCSD. I'd be happy to put you in touch with them, but really kind of get to know the different colleges, because that's going to enhance your academic experience in some way. So in some way, your college assignment and really your major are kind of hand in hand about, what that looks like. So knowing the ones, and I think changing colleges would probably be pretty hard. So especially as a transfer. So be sure that you know what you're signing up for. All right, so campuses and majors. So this is important as well. So as transfer students, you already know what you're going to major in, right? And knowing what major you want to transfer to is important, because there are situations where if you're accepted into one major, it's very, very hard to change. In addition, some universities allow you to pick an alternate major and some do not, right? So if you're, preparing for one major and they say, oh, do you want to, select an alternate major? The undecided option is not for transfer students. So, and in addition, there are some majors that only first years can apply to, because maybe it's a joint degree or a simultaneous degree and it takes 4 years, and you as a transfer student typically you have less time, right? So knowing the majors, I would take the time to look at the major, and more importantly, look at the upper division coursework, because if you just based it on what the major's called and don't look at the upper division coursework, chances are it might not be what you signed up for, right? So make sure that you look at the upper division coursework to know the major that you're applying to. Sometimes students, the BA and the BS, what's the difference? To be perfectly honest, the main difference between the Bachelor of Arts degree and the Bachelor of Sciences degree is that the BS degrees tend to have at the transfer level. At the BS degree, typically you take a lot of major prep courses. These tend to be, STEM courses, or perhaps, courses where you take a lot of major prep. And then the Bachelor of Arts degrees, you take more breadth requirements. IGETC, some of you might have done IGETC. That's being replaced with CalGETC. So really, it just kind of depends on the preparation, right? But also that might be a factor to consider, right? If you want the Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Sciences, it's completely up to you. Okay, so the campuses and majors. So as we look at the different UCs, for example, Berkeley, we are structured by colleges, right? So the College of Chemistry, the College of Engineering, College of Environmental Design. Let's say, for example, UC Irvine, right? UC Irvine is a little bit different. They call it the School of, whatever the different schools are. Merced has three, right? Three different school of. So depending on what you're interested in, and you can also look by subject area, right? If you're not sure what college your major is in. Now, I really, really encourage you. This is something you should know. You should know what college hosts your major, because that's going to dictate transfer requirements. It's also going to dictate graduation requirements, right? So everyone should know the major you're applying to and who hosts the major. And if you're going to UCSD, what college you're applying to, right? So in that situation, that would be the two colleges that you're applying to, right? So when you get to the university, we talk about the university, that would be the university as a whole. And then the colleges are like just basically how it's structured. So as you look, some can only be one choice. So for example, let's say you want to go to UC Berkeley, right? And let's say you want to major in business. That's the only major that you're able to apply to, right? You're not able to do like, oh, I'm going to, apply to Haas and then maybe something else, right? So that's a good example. So it is important to know that. Okay, so again, knowing which college that you're in. Here's another one. Some colleges, you're admitted to the major and you're declared. Like you're admitted to that school, you're admitted to that major, end of story. In the College of Letters and Sciences, like for example, UCLA, College of Letters and Sciences, Davis, Berkeley, College of Letters and Sciences. Sometimes you're intended, right? You're intending to major in a certain thing. That's important to know as well, because knowing that you are intending to major in something versus you're already in the major, you're accepted into the major. Now at Berkeley, for example, we have a pilot program in the College of Letters and Sciences where there are some majors where you will be admitted directly into the major. And I'm happy to share that, but that is important because, that's the major that you're in, that's you're accepted to, and that's what you're, expected to stay in, right? So knowing that is important as well. And it also might determine, when it comes time to make the decision, it also might determine whether or not you go to one school versus another school, right? So depending on what the requirements are to declare the major. Okay, so not a lot, but let's say, for example, UCLA, right? Only two UCs have nursing majors, UCLA and UC Irvine. But let's say, for example, you're like, I want to go to law school, but I also want to get a nursing degree as an undergrad. This would require a supplemental application. Similarly, UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business, their undergraduate program requires a supplemental application, right? So for the supplemental application, there is a supplemental application that you apply to in January. If you're doing anything related to music, performance, things like that, there might be, there might be letters of recommendation that they require. There might be a portfolio. There might be a video, right? That's specific to those majors. There's few majors that, require that, but there are some. So I just wanted to share that. And here's the list of those. For us, for Berkeley, in regards to transfer, the only one is the Haas School of Business. And then like, let's say, for example, you want to go to Davis and you want to do landscape architecture, or Irvine, you want to do music and dance, right? So these are scenarios where you would have to provide this as well. All right, academic history. So again, you're going to need to grab all of your transcripts, every single class you've taken, right? Like every single class that you have taken, you'll need to add you're advised to add those questions. I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend that you create a transfer admissions planner. If you don't have one, it's not too late, because the TAP planner is designed to interface with Assist. You all know about assist.org, right? So the TAP planner is designed to not only interface with Assist, you're also able to import all these classes in your UC application. So that'll tell you your UC transferable GPA. That'll tell you what requirements you've met, right? I was talking to a student earlier today, and he had like 3 transcripts from 3 community colleges, and it was so confusing. And I'm like, why don't you have a TAP planner? And he's like, oh, I didn't know I needed one. And I'm like, you need a TAP planner, right? So TAP planner just makes it so much easier. So you'll know, everything that you need. You'll know your UC transferable GPA. You'll know all the, math requirements, English requirements, right? So highly encourage you to do the TAP planner. And if you don't have a TAP planner, again, it is not too late. And here is the QR code. We'll share these slides afterwards, but this is the QR code and the link. It's free. And again, when you have this, then you're able to just simply upload these and import them into your actual application. So if you don't have a TAP planner, then you can do it the old-fashioned way. But if you do have one, then you just simply, you'll have your TAP login ID, your email address. I would encourage you to use the same TAP email as the TAP, or the same TAP email as the UC application email address. Just makes it easier. Now, this is something, additional academic history. So this is something, if you want to add anything about your academic history, right? So this could be, maybe you started off majoring in one thing and you took a lot of classes in that subject area, and then you changed your, major. Or maybe you took a break from school, right? Or maybe you started off at a university. Very, very common. Maybe you started off at a university and then life happens, or COVID, or who knows, right? Maybe you had children, maybe you had a career, maybe you got married, maybe it could be any number of things. But this is an opportunity for you to talk about that and really clarify anything regarding your academic history, right? It's not a PIQ, but this gives context. Let's say, for example, you started off going to San Diego Mesa College and you took all your classes there, and then fast forward, you moved, right? And you moved and you took classes at Monterey Peninsula College, right? And then you had to move again, right? So this would be an opportunity for you to provide context. And context is very important to provide. Okay, scholarships and support programs. So this is something that a lot of folks don't realize, in that the UC application is also a scholarship application, right? So you'll have to, you'll have to apply for the FAFSA, or, you'll also, it's based on the campus selection, right? There are a lot of scholarships. Take the time to go through the different options. I've seen scholarships that are very, very specific, right? Maybe it's like, we want a student that went to, I don't know, high school. We want a student that went to high school in the San Gabriel Valley, right? I once saw one, a student whose parents were in the military that was interested in energy, right? Sometimes they're very, very specific, right? So take the time to go through those categories. Transfer students, there's a transfer students category, right? And when you get accepted to the UC, there's also scholarships that you can apply for as well. So take the time and look at these different things. And if there are scholarships that you would like to be considered for, you can select that, right? Career plans, maybe you're interested in law school, right? That would be a perfect one. Or perhaps it's based on things that you're involved in, or geographic location, right? So really take the time to go through these. And there's no limit. You can, do as many as you like. If you are interested in the Educational Opportunity Program, which I highly encourage you, there's some great resources. If you are in EOPS at your community college, sadly, it doesn't transfer over. I wish it did. That would be really cool, but it doesn't. But definitely, maybe look at EOP and, why you're interested. Maybe you're a first generation college student. Maybe you're, financial barriers, right? Maybe you're from, it could be any number of things, but really talk about why you're interested in EOP. All right, now we're going to talk about the activities and awards section. So the activities and awards section, so remember how I said earlier you should get your resume and kind of write down the things that you've done? So you have 20 slots and there are 5 categories. So every student on this call, I know has one category, and that's the educational preparation programs, Cal Law Pathways program, right? So you definitely want to put that one in there. So you have 20 slots in 5 categories. So there's honors and awards, there's educational preparation programs like the Cal Law Pathways, there's extracurricular activities, there's volunteering, community service, and there's work experience. It's a missed opportunity for you not to include every job, every, experience, even if it doesn't have to do with your major, right? But you are applying as a transfer student, so be careful. Do not have your application, even though, like I said, we use the same application for high school and for community college. So you want to make sure that your activities are as a transfer student, right? Don't rely on like stuff you did in high school unless you've continued it, right? So let's say, for example, you did speech and debate in high school and you've continued it, right? In that instance, sure, that would be appropriate. But if you're like, I was in the swim team in high school and then, right? It's not really relevant, right? So you want to make sure that all of these things that you're doing are in the context of a transfer student. Volunteering means things that you've donated your time, and then work experience means that this is something you've gotten paid for. So guess what? Cal Law Pathways program, it's on the drop-down menu. Make sure this program has helped you, supported you, inspired you, and they're going to see, oh, this is a student that was involved in this program. You can also put other programs that you might be involved in. Maybe you're in the MESA program, maybe you're in Puente, maybe you're in Umoja. If you join our program, the UC Berkeley CC Transfer Services, you can do that as well, right? So then you'd have more than one that you can put on there. We like to see students from programs because that means that students have we're familiar with these programs, right? Even if we're not perhaps, familiar with that particular student, we're familiar with the programs. And so that gives you an opportunity really to showcase some things you've been involved in. Honors and awards. So these are things like Dean's List, scholarships, it could be Employee of the Month, could be a military award, competition, could be, maybe you ran a marathon or maybe you did track, recognition of community service. So these are things that you've received recognition for. Anything, you've gotten a certificate for, like that's no brainer. Like, yeah, I'm going to put that down. But there could be other things as well, right? There could be other things as well. Maybe you were nominated for something, right? Maybe you didn't get it, but being nominated in some instances, warrants that as well. So honors and awards, thinking about those things, brainstorming, and you want to make sure that you avoid using acronyms because sometimes, acronyms can stand for the same things. So kind of really spelling those out. Work experience, anything, could be anything at all. It's fine if it's, under the table, right? It highlights leadership. You want to make sure that you highlight the transferable skills that you did, right? And connection to the major. Could be anything, right? Could be like, I've known so many students that have worked at McDonald's, right? And McDonald's is actually a pretty stressful job, right? You have to deal with customers, you get a lot of safety training, you have to work under pressure, right? So any job that you've done, even if it's, dog walker, if it's working at the library, if it's babysitting, like anything that you've done, catering, whatever, put that on there and focus on the skills that you've acquired, right? It doesn't have to be major related, but it just shows, that you have had some solid work experience. Volunteer experience. So volunteer experience, these are important as well, but I would make sure that when you talk about your volunteer experiences, that you highlight what you did, you, specifically what you did, right? Sometimes folks will talk about an organization or a movement or something that's very, very important to them. But the problem is they don't highlight what they did, right? So you want to make sure, and the application does a good job. You'll see it on there. It does a really good job of like, you know, giving you an opportunity to explain what the organization is. But then again, what did you do, right? Like what specifically did you do? So this is an opportunity for you to talk about how you, contributed to this organization or this cause or this movement. And this is not an area to be shy. You should be proud of your achievements in everything. And feel free to have someone take a look. It's always good to have another set of eyes, because you don't want to downplay your achievements. And I think a lot of us are, a lot of students have, worked with are really humble, very, good people. But this is not a time to be humble, right? You want to showcase. You want to spotlight. You have worked very, very hard, right? So don't worry. No one's going to say, oh, this person's full of themselves. No, they're going to say, oh, this is great. We're impressed. We want them to come to school here. Okay, PIQs. I could do a whole thing on PIQs. PIQs are very, very important. But let me tell you the most important thing about the PIQs. So these are personal insight questions. These are not essays in the traditional sense, right? So when you go to law school, you will have to write college essays. This is different. These are PIQs. These are short questions, right? So these are short. These are only 350 words, right? So just 350 words. They give you 4, right? You have to choose 4. They give you 1 is required. And then they say, you have to write this one. And then they say, here's 7, pick 3, right? So basically, this is like an interview, right? The first question, the very, very first question is a persuasive tone. You have to, and we'll go over the question in a minute, but you have to like persuade them and illustrate and demonstrate, right? The rest of them, it depends on what the question is, but the rest of them, it's storytelling, okay? So I always say, I love this analogy. I use this analogy with a pre-law student. The first question is your opening argument. That is your opening argument, right? So that's what you start in, and you got to start off strong, because as someone who has read, college applications, you're reading them in volume, and they start to sound the same after a while. So you want to make sure that you come out strong with that opening argument, right? And the question is, this is required for all the transfer students. Please describe how you've prepared for your intended major, including your readiness to succeed in upper division courses once you enroll at the university. Well, the first thing you have to do is you're going to have to know what those upper division classes are, right? And how do you know that? You're going to have to go to the website. You're going to have to check out, right? You're going to have to check out all the different majors and all the different classes. So things to think about is what you did in class, what you did outside of class, right? Your passion for the major, but your illustrated passion for the major, right? What have you done to demonstrate that? How is this connected to your passions and career goals in the classroom and out of the classroom, right? What did you do in addition to simply taking classes, right? This is your opening argument. This is the time where you really want to start off strong, and it's a persuasive essay, right? The rest of the PIQs, I have the QR code, and this is a really good link that has some really good brainstorming questions, but think of it this way. There's a question on leadership, there's a question on creativity, there's a greatest talent or skill question, there's an educational opportunity or barrier question, there's a significant challenge question, there's a community question, and finally, what makes you a strong candidate? How you approach those questions is going to differ, right? That last one, what makes you a strong candidate? Again, that's a persuasive essay, right? The rest of them are storytelling, right? And a good storyteller does not leave out key details. People remember names. So if you talk about a city, if you talk about the name of the city, right? You don't want these vague, general, right, stories. This is where you have to talk in specifics because that's what makes an impression and what people remember. Additional comments. There's an opportunity. If there's something in there that you want to include that does not, it's not an opportunity for you to just, write another PIQ. But if you want to give more context, a good one that I see a lot of students talk about is maybe the distance. Maybe you're commuting a great ways, right? Maybe you're commuting a great ways. Maybe you have children. Maybe you have, you have to care for parents or grandparents or siblings or something like that, right? So talking about these things, if it's not in your PIQs, this would be a way to perhaps, provide context. And then, of course, your grades or certain things. Or let's say, for example, you didn't take a class. It was a highly recommended class, but you didn't take it because it wasn't offered, right? Or something like that. Or maybe you did take a class that doesn't articulate, but it's related to your major and you really want to highlight that, right? So that's where the additional comments section comes in. After you submit, write down your UC application ID number. I would say, do a screenshot or, maybe save like that you've applied, right? Just to have it, just peace of mind, right? And don't wait till, November 30th. But at the same time, now is kind of soon, right? I would say maybe before Thanksgiving is a good time, right? If you join our, program, we'll have all sorts of things, around PIQs. We might even be at your campus. We go to campuses sometimes. But depending on that, but I think that you don't want to wait till the last minute. But at the same time, you also want to kind of, ease into it and have the strongest application you can. You've all worked really, really hard. You've all done a lot. I wish that we could sit down and just grab a cup of coffee and chat with you and interview you, but we can't. So that's kind of what this is. Like it's like your interview, right? So I would say people that know you, if there's people that know you and you trust them and they can, give you some good solid advice, and people that are encouraging as well. I would say that would be a good people to connect with. Again, if you want to get involved with our program, here is the link again. And then I think we have time for Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you, Tiffany. That was a lot of great information. We'll go ahead and start our question and answer session. So there are already a few questions that have been asked by students, and we went ahead and wrote those down. So I'll just get started with the first one. The first question is, what if I applied in high school? Do I have to make a new account? I think they made me make one for TAG.
Yes. Oh, so you did tag. Yes. So two things. One is you do need to make a new, so you can't use, or you shouldn't use the same PIQs because you're a different student now, right? And that is very common, right? So there might be elements of your application that you include that are similar, but your PIQs, one, the required question is going to be different because the freshman question is different from the transfer one. So that one will have to be different. Um, but you can use the same email. I mean, that's completely fine. They're gonna see, they'll be able to see that you've applied, in the past. Something that you might, add is, you might talk about that journey. Talk about that journey in your PIQs if you want to. But yeah, you will still, it's very common for students to do freshmen and then say, oh, I'm going to do community college. Sometimes students get accepted and they decide not to go. That might be something to add as well. Let's say you got into Irvine, right? Let's say you got into Irvine and you couldn't go. You couldn't go because, family scenarios and things like that. That'd be context. That would be a good thing to talk about for additional, things to talk about, the additional comment section.
And then I do see that it's 5 o'clock. Just wanted to let students know that we are all available to stay after. So if anybody needs to hop off, you can go ahead and reach out to us if you have any additional questions. But if you're able to stay on, then we can stay on for a few more minutes for question and answer session. Okay, oh, there's several questions coming in. This is great. The next question is, do most UCs not penalize Ws? A UCSD admissions counselor told me UCSD does not.
We don't. So if you have a W, we don't. Now you might want to provide context, right? But no, we know that life happens. So it's not going to be, now let's say, for example, you have a W and then you retook the class, or maybe you failed the class and you retook the class, right? If you fail a class and you retake the class, then it doesn't impact your GPA. If you have a W, you can just explain. Maybe you were working a lot. It could be any number of things. But we don't penalize you for doing that. We know that life happens.
Does UC Berkeley accept senior level students?
So when you say senior level students, so depending on how many units you have, right? So typically, most of our students are, junior level transfer students. For freshmen, believe it or not, if a freshman has like a lot of APs, sometimes they'll start off as a sophomore and then they'll have like junior level standing, right? It doesn't mean they're going to finish earlier. It just means that they've, had a lot of classes and depending on their major. But for the, unless you have like a lot of units, like, few people are actually junior level standing.
Okay. Does UC Berkeley have a full-time, fully online sociology program?
A fully online social program, I don't believe we do. Now, some classes might be online, but I don't believe we have any, like, we have some grad programs that are online, but but I haven't really seen any UC undergrad online. I've seen a lot of grad programs, but not undergrad.
If I wanted to apply for an alternative major, do I complete all of the required courses under that major since my focus was political science major?
So if you, depending on the school, right? So it depends on the school that you're applying to. So the primary major is the one that you will be considered for. The alternate major is, but I think the primary major is the one that I would focus on for for preparation, that is.
Can we attach certificates of proficiency or achievement? Does
No,
work experience related to our major strengthen our application?
you can't attach anything. There's nowhere to put it in there. But certainly talk about it. Talk about, that's where you list it in the extracurriculars. And then also things that you put in your extracurriculars, you can also talk about those things somewhere in your PIQs, but unfortunately there's nothing to attach.
My question is, what are some notable extracurriculars in regards to UC Berkeley?
Oh, wow. We get students from all over the world. I think that the most notable applications I would say are if you really give the context of what you've had access to and what you've done, right? I think that is the most notable one, right? So let's say, for example, you didn't have, access to a lot of AP classes in high school. Let's say your community college is in a remote location. Let's say that, that you didn't know what you wanted to do, right? Maybe you're a first generation college student, you didn't know what you wanted to do, and you have a lot of units because you took classes, and then you found that one thing that really, really sparked your interest. That's notable. When we get an application from somebody who's really, really, really passionate about the major, that's notable, right? Like, what is your greatest talent or skill? If you have problems thinking about that, think about something you love to do. What is your favorite thing to do? Um, that's a good one because generally speaking, when somebody enjoys something, it's easy for them to talk about it, right? And it kind of puts them at ease. So those are the things that are notable.
I'm in the Pathway to Law program and also wanted to ask about FAFSA. I exhausted all of my Pell Grant. Would that affect me being accepted or being able to attend UCs?
No, the cost doesn't have anything to do with accepted or not. That's a good question though, but no.
For the CCTS, how do they coordinate each individual's attendance to be eligible for the certificate?
So what we do at every workshop is we send during the workshop, we have a QR code and a link, and then there's a participation survey. We do that because we want to make sure that, students are actually participating and doing it, and then we keep track. And then if you attend 5, then, we say, hey, you've gotten 5, and you can put it on your UC application. Even if you don't attend the 5 webinars, you can still put the program on your application, but if you attend the webinars, then you could have 2 things to put in your application.
What should we do if I already submitted a UC tag application, but later made plans of taking extra class for the next semester that originally wasn't on my education plan? How would I update my application?
So on your tag, so it sounds like you're taking an extra class. So if you're taking an extra class, it doesn't seem like that would, for the transfer admission guarantee, it doesn't seem like it would negatively impact, right? You might, whoever you're working with, your counselor at your community college or the person at the UC, I would contact them and, maybe let them know. But it doesn't sound like you're not taking a class that you indicated, which in that case, you might, it might, negatively impact you. But this is very important because I know some of you are on the call today are doing the tags, right? The transfer admissions guarantee. There is a lot of folks that think, oh, I'm just gonna like not worry about my PIQs because I've already done the tag. You should take time in your PIQs, because the Regents and Chancellor Scholarship, which is essentially a full ride and a very prestigious scholarship that gives you like priority registration, there's all sorts of perks, right? That's how they pick based on the PIQs. So spend time on those PIQs, and then someone will read your application and flag it and say, oh, this is a RNC material. So that's an important thing for the UC tag. I've seen like Reddit things where people are like, they don't even read your PIQs. Trust me, some of us do read your PIQs, right? So yeah, you don't, that's a missed opportunity.
Where should we explain the W or academic appeals?
So that's where you would, after you do all your academic history, there's a portion where you can explain anything related to your grades, right? So there's really two places. There's the place in the application where you upload all your grades and your transcripts, test scores, all that. And then if there's something you want to, share, then that's where you'd put it in that portion.
What's the minimum GPA that you recommend applying with?
It depends on the major. So, it depends on the major that you're applying to. You might notice that the UCs don't really use the term impacted, right? Even though some of our majors are very popular. But it depends on the major. If you go to assist, I think a lot of times students will look at assist and they'll look at like the classes, but there's a lot of fine print, and it says on there the minimum GPA for that major. So it depends. It really depends on what school, what university, what major, you're applying to.
For Berkeley business admin majors, do I have to have Calculus 1 and 2 completed for admissions? I have business calc planned for spring.
I can look on assist. Well, it depends on what community college you go to, but I believe so. But I would check assist. Check assist, and it'll tell you exactly what community college you're at, and it'll tell you exactly which ones you need. Off the top of my head, I've known students that have taken business calculus, but I don't want to tell you the wrong thing because I don't know what community college you're from. But assist will have it.
How does UC Berkeley feel about certificates from Coursera?
Oh, we love that. So the great thing about things like Coursera, or the different, like there's a different, classes that you can take, that actually shows interest and preparation for the major, right? So even if you're not getting like units or credits from it, you're taking the time to learn on your own. And so we love that stuff. I would highly recommend that if it's related to your major, that you talk about it in that first PIQ, or maybe in a different, PIQ, but definitely include it. There's a lot of really great classes out there. In addition, maybe there's a class that you took that doesn't articulate, but it's related to your major. You might want to highlight that, right? And that would be a good additional comment section. And at the end, right? You might say, oh, well, even though this class doesn't articulate, I took this class because I wanted to learn more about, whatever topic it is.
And we still have a list of 6 questions, but I do see that Amalia's hand is up. So go ahead and ask your question, Amalia.
Thank you. So my question is, I went to a university in a different country for 3 years, and then I couldn't finish because I had to move here. So I came here and I started college. So I'm gonna have 60 units from college when I graduate. And I have my grades from my university. And I just found out that if they're transferable, I might be considered an upper division student. And I know that you guys don't do a pre-evaluation. So I'm kind of lost here. I don't know what to do and how to find out.
So that's actually a lot more common than you might think. Like we get a lot of students in that situation. There's depending on the school that you're interested in transferring to, you should directly contact the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. I mean, we get, applications from all over the world. But you are a California Community College student, so chances are the majority of the classes that they will be looking at are your California Community College classes. So I mention that because let's say there's a student at a CSU, right? And the students at the CSU, those classes might not articulate. We know that the California Community College classes articulate, but it also depends on the major, right? So it's a lot more common than, you might think. So I would just contact the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. Maybe they're familiar with the university, maybe not. And they can, kind of give you more information. And if you want to email us, you can email us at transfer@berkeley.edu and we can put you in touch with someone.
What about Berkeley? Do you guys, will you guys evaluate them? Or how do you guys evaluate?
Admissions will be able to. We only do community college admissions. Or we don't do community college admission. We just evaluate community college classes. We don't have the expertise for the international, but admissions does.
So I emailed them both Berkeley admissions and UCLA admissions, and they said that they don't do pre-evaluation. I just need to read the description of the course and see if they match. And they said if they match, then it's going to be transferable.
Okay. Well, if you want, to email me like specifically, we can maybe, I don't know who you talk to, but you're welcome to email us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, next question. Around what time do we start seeing acceptance rejection letters?
So I don't think you get a rejection letter? I think, it's grad school that doesn't give rejection letters. Typically the August, or not August, sorry. Typically, April. April is when you start. Now sometimes students will not get into one school and think, oh no, because I didn't get into this school, I'm not going to get into that school. It's not. Like I've had students they're like, I didn't get into any other schools, but I got into Berkeley, or I didn't get into anywhere, but I got into UCLA, or, so there's no correlation. But it starts in April, and then it's like in a wave, and then we usually do it I think second to the last week in April is when we announce, and then UCLA does it right after, and then UCSD usually does it after us. There's also the wait list. That's a whole other thing. Sometimes, students get waitlisted. It really depends. But that's why it's really important that you check your email in spring.
I submitted a tag for UC Riverside and I have all my course requirements either completed or planned. But after submitting it for business administration major, someone told me I need to have business calc completed by this fall, but I have it planned for the spring.
Well, if you've already done your tag, they would have told you, right? They wouldn't have signed off on it, right? So I don't know if it was a UC rep or, but based on I don't think they would have signed off, if it wasn't done. But if you're, uncertain, I would contact the tag rep that helped you.
The other question is, the tag does not guarantee admission, does it?
No, I know it sounds weird, but it doesn't guarantee. Sometimes students do the tag and it's declined, you can still apply for that major. I know it's kind of weird, right? But you can still apply for the major for sure. It just depends on, it just depends. But you can still definitely apply for that major. But this is really important. If you tag to a school, make sure that when you apply to that school, you apply to that same major. Because sometimes students are like, oh, just kidding, I want to do a different major. Then your tag, won't be approved.
Can you remind us what main scholarship could get you a full ride and what makes a student eligible for this scholarship?
That's the Regents and Chancellor Scholarship. So the Regents and Chancellor Scholarship is really a leadership scholarship, right? And when we say leadership, we don't mean like, oh, I'm president of a club, right? It's leadership like, and leadership comes in many forms, right? I mean, we've had students that have had, really, really tough circumstances and they've persevered. We've had students that have done some really dynamic things. So really it's all in the context of where they grew up and what they've had access to and what they've done with that. So the regents and chancellors, that's the scholarship. In addition, some schools, UC Santa Cruz, for example, they have a really prestigious one for students from certain, community colleges in the area, right? So there's also that too. There's also regional, scholarships as well. So I would take a look at those depending on which community college you attend. But the Regents, the RNC, in addition, there's the Blue and Gold Scholarship. Now, the cool thing about the Blue and Gold Scholarship, that's a UC-wide scholarship, is that's based on income, right? So if you qualify for that, you can get that. There's also the Middle Class Scholarship as well. But that's based on, your family's income. But the regents and chancellors, that's why, like, whenever I'm advising a student, like, you want to, like, put your application, like, just put everything. So you can, like, the more information that they have, the more they can see how great you are. And then, hopefully you get a RNC.
Does the admissions office read our whole application or do they read only a part of it?
So depending on where you apply, so let's say, for example, you apply to the College of Engineering at Berkeley, right? College of Engineering is going to read your application. Admissions has to obviously approve it. So what they do is they recommend your application for, so what happens is the department recommends your application for admission, and then the Office of Undergraduate Admission has to officially approve it. That's why sometimes when students say they're going to take a class and then they don't take the class, then they have to rescind the offer. Doesn't happen as much with transfer students. It happens sometimes with Frosh, let's say they, something happens and they don't take classes they were going to take, or they don't, meet the minimum requirements. But, or, if an application, like if they found that somebody plagiarized or somebody, just out and out lied, then the Office of Undergraduate Admission, they would have to rescind the offer. But for College of Letters and Sciences at Berkeley, admissions does that whole process. Haas, the Haas School of Business, they read theirs. The different colleges read the different CDSS. If you're doing data science or computer science or stats, they read the applications. So it's also good, to know on that front as well.
Will there be an email provided for someone so I can reach out?
Yeah, if you want to email transfer@berkeley.edu, we're happy to either answer your question or get you a good contact.
And when we share out the presentation slides, we'll make sure to include that email and any other, important contact information.
Thanks.
I
Great
joined. I joined a little bit late. Do you recommend listing every single job on the activity section?
I mean, it depends on what you want to highlight. You know what I mean? If you were at a job for like 2 days and, it's not something that you want to, highlight. But let's say you were at a job for a month and you got a lot out of it. Then yeah, sure, right? And it doesn't have to be, I mean, it doesn't have to be related to your major. It's just the skills that you acquired based on that job and what you did and think about how those skills have benefited you, right? Like I mean, when I was younger, like I worked in a grocery store. I can't tell you that job working in the grocery store. Oh my gosh, like the stuff I learned about, talking to people and dealing with people and things like that, like that was it helped a lot, right? I didn't know it at the time, but so as you reflect on, different things you've been involved with or different things you've done, think about that. Think about like, okay, how is this going to, how has this trained me for something? You're all pre-law students, right? So how is your job that you're doing, right? How is that preparing you for, law school? How's that preparing you to work in the legal field, right? It's the same thing.
Is there a limit to how many scholarships we should apply to?
I don't think there is a limit. I think you can select as many as you want.
That's all the questions on our list. Do students have any other questions that you want to drop in the chat, or do you want to just go ahead and unmute yourself or raise your hand?
I really appreciate you ladies. I have to get going, but thank you so much. Super informative. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for all your questions and for coming, Kayla. Okay, last call. Any other questions?
I just put our intake form
Oh,
in.
yep. Maricela?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for all the information. It was very helpful.
Great.
Thank you, both of you, or all of the ones. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I don't see any other questions, but we'll definitely include that Berkeley, the transfer at ucberkeley.edu so that you can still, ask your questions. And then all those important links that Tiffany shared so you can do some search and, look at FAQs on the website. Thank you so much, Tiffany. This was super informative. A lot of great information. Thank you. And also thank you to all the students that came by and for being engaged and asking questions. We're glad to see that this is, beneficial for you. And then just want to put a last minute plug for events coming up. Remember, there's the fall workshop, so we have more, workshops every week. So look for those. And then also to complete the survey for this event. So it's helpful for us, to get feedback and to evaluate our programs. So just, please, take like a minute or two to do that. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.